Hello and welcome in to another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as the mayor of Saturday mornings, and I'm joined here by the vice mayor of Saturday mornings, the one and only Thunderstick, Jesse Friedman. Jesse, happy Saturday to you. What did you do as a kid on Saturday mornings? Were you did you get up early? Did you sleep in on the weekends? What was the vibes like for you when you were a kid on Saturday mornings?
That is a great question. Wake up early? No. Feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah.
The weekends are for sleeping in, Derek. If you're waking up early on the weekend, especially as a small child, you're making a massive mistake. I feel like I remember watching. There was a lot of baseball watching that would happen on Saturday for sure.
Correct.
We didn't have cable in my household growing up, but we would get the Saturday Fox game, or I think sometimes it was multiple games. I believe there was also This Week in Baseball was a TV show that I believe aired only on Saturdays that I was obsessed with growing up, which I still will say is one of the best like regular baseball TV shows that has ever existed. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I don't remember doing much in the mornings necessarily. I think I was generally fairly unproductive, as it's supposed to be on a weekend day.
I grew up in the pre-DVR era of this world existing, Jesse. So I was a big fan of Saturday morning cartoons. You had to actually get up in order to watch those. And then they went away very quickly. So for a long time, I've been a slave to getting up to watching some form of media on Saturday mornings. But you do bring up a really interesting point. And I think about some of those shows and things that they put on Saturdays kind of for kids, transitioning from the morning into the afternoon, especially when it comes to sports, and how important those were to me as a young kid getting interested in sports. It worked, you know what I mean? Like doing some of those things where they had like a show that maybe just even broke down what the rules of baseball were at times, and having, you know, athletes kind of explain certain things, and having like kids as the host was an important part to me getting into, I think, a lot of different things for sure.
Yeah, man. Hey, Saturday shows, Derek. Maybe we should just ditch Monday all the way around and just make it Mailbag Saturday from now on. I don't know.
No, that's a terrible idea, Jesse, because you know what we do on Mondays, but you also know that every year on this show is our year, and every month on this show is Black History Month, and every month on this show is Women's History Month, and every month on this show is Black Women's History Month, and every week on this show is Shark Week, of course, and every day, of course, Passover, as we've talked about. But every Saturday, as you know, we go to the mailbag. Let's go.
My mailbox, always something interesting in my mailbox. I try to get to everything in my mailbox, and then once in a while, there's a letter that makes me go, wow, wow, my mailbox.
I am in a very small room right now with Father Overlord Jacob. I very much appreciate his help here today on this Mailbag Saturday. And I am once again quarantined away from Jesse Friedman because he, what was it that we determined that you had? You had Paul Skeens fever, right? That's what you had? No, he has Paul Skeens fever is what he has.
Yeah, I believe I have Paul Skeens fever. He's scheduled to make his debut later today, if I'm not mistaken.
That is right. You're better at keeping track of time than I am, that's for sure. But let's go to the mailbag. What do we got, Jacob? First question?
First question comes from Travis Moore at More For Me. He says, production, bullpen woes, Carroll slumping, injuries which can actually continue to add up.
By the way, I do want to point out, this is the second part of a rant where Travis was kind of getting back at me for calling him the pessimist and talking about his written mailbag question to Jesse, which yes, Travis, we understand. There's a whole bunch of reasons why you could be pessimistic about this season, but we're not there yet. But let's hit him with the question.
His question is, what goes into deciding how to platoon the outfield right now from your perspective outside of just left-handed pitching or right-handed pitching? Why start Grichuk or McCarthy in right field?
Well, I think that a big part of that, if I'm being honest, is their play, right? Like the way that they're able to handle the position defensively. At times, the outfield looks like it's very easy, and routine plays made by a player that's good look routine. They look easy. But we've seen other guys, and I'm not just singling out Pavin Smith, though I want to. We've seen even Lourdes Gurriel in left field at times make plays that are fairly routine look far more difficult than they actually are. And I think it's, especially when it comes to the outfield, it has a lot to do with their ability to both potentially be, contributing at the plate as well as their defense in the outfield.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does have a lot to do with lefty versus righty. I
Sure.
mean, we've basically we haven't seen Randall Grichuk start against a righty in quite some time at this point. It's basically been, if a righty's on the mound, either Jake McCarthy or Pavin Smith. Definitely more so Jake McCarthy recently, although Torrey has gone to Pavin Smith a few times in situations where I guess they figured that would be a better matchup. D-backs have some advanced analytics and whatnot that will tell them perhaps whether Pavin or Jake would be a better matchup given that particular day's starting pitcher. But if there's a lefty on the mound, it's been Grichuk pretty much every time at this point, with Blaze getting in there in the DH slot. So it's been pretty much what I would have expected. The only weirdness sort of being figuring out whether Jake McCarthy or Pavin Smith will start in right field against the righty. And I think you and I are pretty much on the same page where Jake is so much better defensively in right field than Pavin is, that you really have to have like those advanced numbers really better be favoring Pavin Smith. Otherwise it's kind of a tough sell.
Usage is also, going to factor in, right? Because Torrey is going to give guys off, especially with the injuries that they have. He's going to give guys off like Jake that he's playing a lot those days off still. And sometimes it's going to force his hand on who he has out there, but it's just the way that Torrey, manages this team. He's never going to try to grind someone down. He's going to try his best to give guys days off and keep them fresh. So that factors in at times as well, even though we want to scream about his starting lineup someday, and understandably so. All right, what else we got there, Jacob?
Question number 2 comes from @SonsAnthony1. Says World Series or bust season? ?
That's so crazy. See, that's so crazy to me, right? I mean, it sounds crazy, but how many fans out there actually do kind of have that thought in their head a little bit? How many fans out there naturally build, because that's the way we are as human beings? We just build to the next thing, right? We made it to the World Series last year. The front office spent good money on this team and brought in some good pieces. That means that the next logical step is that they're going to get back to the World Series and win it. And as much as I would love to think that myself, it's not very reasonable, right? It's, we talked about it in the last 50 years, 3 teams have repeated champions in baseball. And that's a very long time for that to only be 3 teams. The reason why is because baseball is quite possibly the hardest sport for you to get very good and then dominate for a period of time. Baseball is just, it's too erratic. There's too many variables that come into play.
On paper, it makes sense, right? Like you lose the World Series one year, but you win the NL pennant. So the next logical step, as you said, is to just win the whole thing.
Yep.
But we discussed this quite a bit over the offseason, where given baseball and just the sort of randomness that comes with the MLB postseason, that's a really tall order and probably an unrealistic one to call this World Series or bust. Like if the D-backs got back to the NLCS and they just stopped there, let's say for this season, I have to believe a lot of people as sad as it would be to see them get knocked out at that point, I have to believe a lot of people would still be pretty happy with the Diamondbacks having back-to-back years of not only making the playoffs, but going pretty deep in it as well.
We're going to the airport, Jesse. We're welcoming them home. We are bringing signs. We are doing all of that if they make it to the NLCS, and that's as far as they go. And rightfully so, right? I mean, that's the problem. That's that expectation. Torey wants to set a standard. I poked fun at it the other day about you can call it whatever you want. It's still expectations. But the standard Torey's trying to set is done over years. He's trying to set a standard for this organization to have a certain level of excellence. And I get where he's coming at. And that's the way that he's trying to reform the idea of expectations into more about the Diamondbacks have set a standard, not an expectation. And they expect their players to play up to that standard, every year or whatever, right? But again, the problem is that expectations come from everywhere. It comes from within the organization, and it definitely comes from outside, including fans' expectations. And like you said, unfortunately, that's the next logical step, is that we're going to get back to the World Series and win it. So, I mean, again, just enjoy baseball. Enjoy rooting for this team, but realize what they did last year. I'm not going to say was a fluke, but it was an outlier. They were here early. They very much did something that nobody expected them to do. Hopefully they can become a team that everybody does expect them to be competitive and potentially get back there. But I don't really think even baseball experts were ready to do that about the Diamondbacks this season, even with the additions they made. There was still a lot of talk about how good the Dodgers got and other teams got. And despite the Diamondbacks, doing what they did during the offseason, it still wasn't enough to start talking them about them being a perennial contender.
Yeah, the other thing I'll say about this real quick is shortly before the season started, I did a poll of Diamondbacks fans. We created a survey and distributed it out, got close to 1,000 responses. And one of the questions was, what are your expectations of this team? Like what needs to happen for this season to be successful, I think is the way that it was worded. And there were a handful of people out of that 700 plus or whatever it was respondents who were calling it World Series or bust, but there weren't very many. Pretty much everyone was either get to the playoffs again. I would say that was the most common one. Some people added get out of the first round. They didn't want to see a first round exit in the wild card series or something like that. But yeah, there were very few people who said we have to go all the way to the World Series again and win it in order for the season to be considered a success.
And I think we both would agree with that as well. So, all right, what else we got there, Jacob?
Question number 3 comes from Serpientes Magic. Is there any third base candidate in our farm system if Suarez' team option declined next season? His performance has not been great so far. It seems Divas and De Los Santos doesn't field third anymore. Chaparro looks good, but doesn't have a lot of info on his defense. Can we fix Blaze to fill up that spot?
Jesse, I'm going to leave this one in your hands because, to be honest, outside of going after another third baseman, I don't really have an answer for what the Diamondbacks would do at third base at this time.
Yeah, it's tricky. I think it is possible that if they decided to move on from Gino Suarez, that they would look for another stopgap sort of solution at third base, given that maybe they wouldn't feel quite so confident with anyone that they have in house. The name that comes to mind most prominently for me is Tommy Troy, a guy who was taken in the first round last year, of course, by the Diamondbacks. He's dealing with a hamstring issue right now that has kept him out for quite a while. But he was taken out of Stanford. He's a college draft pick, a guy that you feel could move fairly quickly through the Diamondback system. So I think there is a world in which Tommy Troy comes back from that hamstring issue in about a month and just rakes in Hillsboro, gets up to AA, and finds his way up to AAA, maybe the majors, although that feels like a stretch for this season by the end of the year. So he's probably the most obvious answer. I think that's probably a stretch, though. The other name that comes to mind is Gino Groover, who's also dealing with a pretty major injury right now, having broken his left wrist on a play that he made over at first base. And he defensively is not necessarily a sure thing at third base either. D-backs have been using Tommy Troy at shortstop. Some people think he can move over to second. D-backs have been using Groover, I believe, both at first base and third base. So I don't think it's necessarily a given that he's like a major league ready third baseman, really either offensively or defensively by the time next season rolls around. So yeah, there's a pretty good chance that the D-backs would need to look externally if they're not bringing Gino Suarez back.
You don't think a Lawler Perdomo left side of the infield works?
I'm glad you brought up Lawler. Yeah, that's a name that I left out that I should not have. Lawler is the most obvious. I don't know.
They're all
why
injured. It's easy to forget about them right now, Jesse.
Yeah,
I forgive you for that one.
They are all injured. No, Lawler is absolutely part of this for sure. I think given his timeline, he's probably the most likely out of the three, really, because he's already played in AAA. He's already played in the majors as well. If he comes back and shows, some positive things coming off that torn ligament in his thumb, then I could see a world where the D-backs have Perdomo at shortstop and also maybe give Lawler a look at third base as well. Blaze Alexander, I guess, could also factor into this conversation. He hasn't played a ton of third base recently, although we did see him play there some in spring training. Maybe the D-backs decide that third base is a better fit for him defensively. He certainly has the arm for third base. There's no questions about that. So they do have a few options. Really, any of those four guys you could kind of see in that role, but none of them feel so sturdy as like an everyday third base option as soon as next season.
What about for the future, though? Do you think one of those guys ends up being the Diamondbacks, like regular third baseman for multiple seasons? Is there anybody you'd put your money on there for that?
Probably not put my money on. I don't tend to do that sort of thing. Especially
your hypothetical money on. I meant this more as if you were a betting man, but yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, sure.
It really doesn't, like, none of the options are, for sure. And it also depends on how these young guys still develop, right? Jordan Lawler, he can play third, but do you want him at third? Same thing with Blaze. Do you really want either of these guys at third? Or are they going to be able to handle the position?
Yeah, I think, Lawler out of that group is the safest bet as like an everyday player at the major league level who could be really productive. Even given the struggles that he had toward the end of last season, you read some of the public scouting reports that have come out on Jordan Lawler over the last few months. Everyone is still really positive on the guy. Some people think that maybe the hit tool isn't going to be above average, but that there's enough power there, there's enough defensive value there that he could still be a pretty darn good everyday player in this league. So Lawler is the easiest one for me to bet on out of that group.
All right. What else we got there, Jacob?
Fourth question comes from BB Nitro. It says, with Slade pitching really well early, but not later into starts, could he be a bullpen candidate once the rotation is a little bit healthier?
We actually talked about this on Thursday in regards to Slade, and I think that's a very, very good question. I think that what we've seen out of him so far shows that the man is incredible the first time through the lineup. I think Jesse said that he had a 0.83 OPS the first time through the lineup.
Yeah, 083, 084, something like that. Yeah.
Man, that's incredible. My only hesitation would be making that decision on if you want to turn him into a bullpen arm when he could potentially be close to putting it together where he's not just effective the first and second time through the starting lineup, that he can actually be a guy that can get you, 6 solid innings. So far, I feel like he's shown that he's a very, very capable starting pitcher. And I think hesitate, as I'm sure the organization would probably hesitate, to take someone that's stretched out and can has proved so far that he could pitch at a Major League Baseball level to reduce him down to just a bullpen arm.
Yeah, you look at Slade's starts so far this season. It's pretty impressive, right? Like, he started against the Giants. That was in place of Merrill Kelly. He was sort of the last minute spot starter to take Kelly's spot in the rotation after Kelly went down with that injury. That start, 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. He only threw 64 pitches in that game. Next outing against the Mariners, 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, 84 pitches there. Also pretty efficient. He had the clunker against the Padres where he looked dominant the first time through the order and then gave up 6 runs on 5 hits, a couple of walks in that game as well, over 4 1/3. But then he bounces back against the Reds, as we talked about on Thursday, with 5 1/3 innings of 1-run ball there. So he has been cut short a little bit in terms of pitch count to this point, but that's kind of just a testament to how efficient he's been in some of these games, especially that game in San Francisco where he got through 6 innings on 64 pitches. So he's been so good in the rotation that I agree with you that in some ways it would be hard to remove him from that role, because starters are generally more valuable than relievers. Like if a guy could be a good starter or a good reliever, you generally choose the good starter route instead. However, as we discussed a little bit the other day as well, once you get Merrill Kelly and Erod back, hopefully here in a couple of months, that should open the door for you to shift some of these starters into the bullpen. And Slade Cecconi profiles there about as well as anyone, any of the Diamondbacks young pitchers. You mentioned the crazy OPS stat, under a 100 OPS the first time through the batting order. You know, maybe it's not just a short relief role. Maybe he's a guy who's able to give you a couple of innings like Dre Jameson did at times last year, like Archie Bradley did in 2017. That was a really, really big role. So yeah, imagining having Thompson, Ginkel, and Sewald at the back end, along with a multi-inning weapon potentially in Slade Cecconi, that would be so valuable for the D-backs. I have to believe that they would go that route if they were healthy enough in the rotation to be able to make that transition.
Well, of course, we thank you guys for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel on a Saturday. We ask you, of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do so now. It's a wonderful day to do so. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss whenever our shows go live. Leave us a little thumbs up. Drop us a like. Gabby loves when you do that. We love when you do that. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, we love our listeners as well. Of course, make sure you're subscribed over there on your favorite audio podcasting app. Leave us a review. We appreciate that feedback, and we always appreciate those 5-star reviews. They help us out quite a bit. Of course, make sure to check out the BetMGM Sportsbook app. If you haven't signed up for the app yet, do so now. Use our code of PHNX. When you do, all you got to do is deposit at least $10 into your newly created account and place your first wager. You will receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets, depending on your bet. If the bet loses, if the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Of course, baseball season means having fun on the BetMGM Sportsbook app with baseball, and you can with the Grand Slam Jackpot promotion right now. Every weekend this baseball season, you place a $10 or more wager on any player to hit a home run every weekend. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If the player hits a grand slam on that day, you can win up to $50,000. That's their daily prize, or a share of that $50,000 prize with every other winning bettor. So, of course, make sure you sign up for the BetMGM Sportsbook. Do not miss out on this Grand Slam promotion, and use that bonus code of PHNX. Place your first sportsbook wager through the Sportsbook mobile app for at least $10. You will receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Bets expire in 7 days. One new customer offer only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY, 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Bonus bets are non-withdrawable. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, North Carolina, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
Puerto
Rico. We fucking nailed it. Let's go, Jesse. All right. Of course, we thank you guys again for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Make sure to check out Desert Financial Credit Union, by the way. Of course, for more than 84 years, Desert Financial has not only been helping us out with the numbers around here because, you know, Jesse and math, but Desert Financial has also been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union. They've been dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make your life better. They made my life better by helping me get started on owning a home, and hopefully they can get you started on your home ownership journey. Again, look to Desert Financial for checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. When you open a free checking account online, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. Well, we got some more Mailbag Monday questions. Jacob, hit us with it. What else we got here?
This is the fifth question, and I just want to make sure, like, it's going to be really lengthy, so just give me a second to read this.
Okay, please.
Are we back?
Yeah, we're back. Hell yeah, we're back. Jesse, are we back?
D-backs as of the time of this recording are still under 500. So
Oh,
they might want to hold off on that just a little bit at this point.
fine.
But
Fine. But we are back in the sense that the Diamondbacks are competitive once again, and we're not watching them literally struggle for 9 innings to put together 2 hits and a scoring opportunity. And that feels, at least it feels more fun to watch this team than it did for 2 weeks there in April.
yeah, and I mean, as we discussed the other day, like the Diamondbacks were never at a point in the standings where like legitimate worries were warranted, I would say. I mean, they did get to down to 14 and 20. I mean, they were 6 games below 500, which is pretty rough. But at the same time, I mean, they were never more than maybe 3-4 games out of the last wild card spot. Not that wild card standings are really all that important this time of the year, but you'd
Fair.
feel worse about it if you were like 9 games out or something, right? Like if there were 3 NL wildcard teams that were all 7-8 games above 500,
it's
that's
over
just
at
not
10 under 500. It's over for you and your team. It's it, right? So, yeah, I mean, they tiptoed close to that line, but hopefully, things have kind of gone their way, and hopefully they can figure out a way in this series against the Orioles for sure. But I don't know. I think again, it's very encouraging to see, and unfortunately, we're getting too encouraged by like 1 for 4 performances, 1 for 5 performances. But it's encouraging to see things going the way of some of these guys that haven't been able to even be productive, even have productive at bats, let alone be getting hits in these games. So hopefully that will continue, and confidence will build in that clubhouse. All right, what else we got there, Jacob?
Question 6 comes from Hanley. Says, why do the Diamondbacks not wear the D logo hats as much, or am I missing something?
No, you're right. You're right. The D is missing, and it's because it's a big D. And, even when you're the one wearing it, it can be very intimidating, I guess. So I don't really have an answer for you. I would love to see more of the big D. I think that would, like, big D on TV, that equals ratings. I've completely lost Jesse on this one. I'm sorry.
You kind of
D-backs, D logo. No, the red hat. I mean, I like that hat, but yeah, I mean, we aren't, even though we were shown the uniform, the kit combinations before the season, they are sticking to a few of their staples more often than we thought we would see.
Yeah, I haven't really noticed this. I mean, looking at their kits that they have on their website, they've got the D hat with the red jersey and then also with the road gray. Have they just not been wearing it with? I know the red jerseys they don't wear.
It's a black hat with the TLA.
Yeah, most of the time it's the black hat with the TLA. I mean, they've wear the black hat with the red D a couple of times, and I think the red brim, but for the most part, yeah, it's a whole lot of the black hat with the A logo on it, which is what we're getting on the road. We got that yesterday. We're getting that most of the time.
Yeah, that is weird then, because that's not the way that they present it on their website. So yeah, maybe during the next homestand we'll have to ask around about that. I hadn't noticed. I'm not exactly the jersey aficionado around here. So
I mean, I gave the proper explanation about how intimidating the big D can be, right? So maybe that's the reason why. Maybe there's just complaints that people find it, obscene. I don't know. But anyway, we'll get you a true answer, a real answer about that. Most likely it's possibly just a team preference. So we'll see. I know some of the things are all alternate, right? And like, I haven't seen the black uniform nearly as much as I wanted to. Like, we saw it all spring, but then once the season came around, I don't feel like we've seen the black uni, which in my opinion is the best one, as often as I would like to see it. So I'm with you on those. Sometimes those alternates are an alternate for a reason. What else we got?
Question 7 comes from Don's Bread. Have we seen Elise's husband Mike and Mike Hazen in the same room?
See, that's all.
Are we really having this conversation again?
Yeah, it's a good question to ask. I think it's a real good question. I mean, again, I know we met him. We met a person that was allegedly Elise's husband, Mike, but I'm not sure if that. I mean, you could stick anybody out there, and Jesse and I are going to believe it, right? I mean, realistically, who are we to question if that person is who they say they are? But I still don't trust that Elise. I don't know. She has something cooking, Jesse. And I still think that she is involved in the front office of some major league team here in baseball.
See, I don't understand why it has to be that Elise is like operating under an alias or something like that. I think Elise just she just has a prominent role in some major league front office,
Correct.
but it's Elise. It's her name.
Yeah.
We just haven't figured out which team she works for yet, or exactly the details there.
Is she a puppet master? Is she an invisible hand, if you will, just kind of overseeing a team, but not taking credit for it because she's just like this being of higher learning and understanding of the game of baseball?
Yeah, maybe she's like a private consultant or something. Maybe she doesn't actually work for a particular team. She's just like a hired
CEOs of corporations. They're not the real person in charge. There's somebody up there pulling the strings and doing the day, right? Like I think that's might be that. I met Elise. I think now that's more believable than anything else. So we'll stick to that for now until we come up with some other crazy thing to basically accuse her of. What do you got, Jacob?
We have one last question.
Let's go.
Michael McDermott says, if PHNX started a rock band, who would play which instrument?
Oh my God.
Jesse and I are on dueling pianos.
I mean, Jesse on piano.
Yeah.
That's exactly where Jesse would go. Because
it's really the only instrument I can I dabble on the guitar, but the piano is really the only instrument I can competently play at this point. So
I don't mean this isn't a knock at you. This isn't any kind of insult, but like you have the look of a piano man, right? Like you could fit in with any band. You could sit in with Anthrax in your current form and just play the piano on one of their songs, and nobody would bat an eye. They would know from the minute you walked out on stage. They're like, that guy's playing the piano. So the Jesse, of course, is playing the piano. I have Shane on the drums because Shane is a wild man.
Does he play the drums?
Jesse, this is not the game we are playing. This is purely a imaginary rock band that we are making up, and we are giving. See, that's the thing is, I know you really play piano, but even if you didn't, I would have still stuck you behind the piano. I have no idea if Shane can keep a beat. I have no idea about his musical knowledge. I don't know if he can read sheet music, but what I do know is when I envision a wild man on the drums, making funny faces and pointing to the crowd with one stick and just eating it up the same way that beekeeper ate up every moment of coming out there and getting rid of those bees, it's Shane.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Emma on bass. I know she's not here, but we're bringing her back just to play bass guitar.
She does give off, it makes
badass female bass player, right? You know, that's absolutely where she would be. Petey, lead guitar.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right?
And that's not just us projecting Petey as like the imaginary guitarist. Petey is actually quite talented.
Quite accomplished when it comes to the guitar. Meanwhile, Gerald, rhythm guitar. I don't know if he has any skills at all. I just see him as that.
Sure. Yeah. I'm on board.
Okay. And then last I have Lindsay as the lead singer. I'm sure she can't sing. I'm pretty sure she can't sing. But I don't care. She has the look that I need for this rock band.
I think hasn't Espo? I feel like Espo has maybe sang more on shows than anyone else.
That's a good point.
Petey's done some singing as well. Petey could
Mike
probably
has
sing while playing the guitar.
No,
Mike raps on
Mike's
like
gonna rap on
shows.
one of our tracks. Holy shit. We're gonna have Lindsay and Espo doing a duet while Mike comes in with the rap interlude, like at some point. Sign me up.
That sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, it does. All right. Well, of course, this answer was brought to you by OG's Brands, obviously. And we thank OG's for everything they do for me personally and some of you out there. But if you haven't had a chance to check out everything OG's has to offer, do it. Check it out. They have minis. They have very, very small doses available. They have a wide variety of strains and effects. Whether you're looking for a sleep edition gummy, whether you're looking to improve your mood, whether you are simply looking to chill out, They have your back. They also have some vegan gummies that are their new OGs Naturals, as well as their big OGs for big guys like me. Actually, they're just one that you're supposed to cut into little slices, as you guys know, but I just eat the whole thing. So anyway, to learn about everything they have to offer, check out ogsbrands.com, where you can find them, more information about them, and more about exactly maybe what you're looking for. Must be 21 or over to enjoy, and please enjoy responsibly. Also, of course, we have some wonderful events coming up. But if you love baseball and you want to get out to some baseball games or any events, including concerts, comedy shows, anything you're looking to get out to, check out Game Time. You can save up to 60% off by buying last minute for all of those things. They have flash deals on their app where you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game. You can see what your view is going to be for the game. You can also make sure that you know in the back of your mind that you got the lowest price, because they have a lowest price guarantee. If they do not get you the lowest price, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. They also cover your tickets with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, that's all we have for you guys today. We appreciate, of course, you joining us. We appreciate your questions. Mailbag would not be what it is without you guys. Of course, we have Ryan Nelson going on the mound today for the Diamondbacks against John Means. So, of course, hope the Diamondbacks can figure that out. That is a very tough Baltimore Orioles team. Of course, we will be back on Monday, maybe with another Mailbag Monday episode. A lot of these back to back. So we need some more good questions. Make sure to dig deep and bring those on Monday. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Cap_Caveman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, the fourth best Jacob Franklin in known existence is at Jacob_Franklin4. We're working hard on moving him up the ranks. One day he'll be Jacob_Franklin1. But until then, we thank you guys for joining us, for watching the show. You can follow our show at PHNX_DBacks. And of course, all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you again for your time. We appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it is so much more fun when you realize the Diamondbacks are, in fact, back.
We all silly like the mayor.